Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki, Shri Shri Kishore Kishore ki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 7th Canto, Chapter 15, Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. Text 46. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nochet pramatam asadindriya vajji sutta. Nitvotpatham vishayadasyusu nikshipanti. Tedasya vasahasya sutamamum tamunde. Samsara kupa urumrityu bahe kshipanti. Nachit pramattamasadindriyava ajisuta. Nitvut patam vishadasyushu nikshipanti. Tedasya vasahasya sutamamum tamunde. Samsara kupa urumrityu bhaye kshipanti. Vaishnavis. Nochet. If we do not follow the instructions of Achyuta, Krishna, and do not take shelter of Balaram, Pramattam, careless, inattentive, Asat, which are always prone to material consciousness, Indriya, the senses, Vaji, acting as the horses, Suta, the chariot driver, intelligence, Nitva, bringing, Utpatam, to the road of material desire, Vishaya, the sense objects, Dasyushu, in the hands of the plunderers, Nikshipanti, throw, Te, those, Dasyavaha plunderers. Sa with Haya Sutam, the horses and chariot driver. Amum, all of them. Tamaha, dark. Andhe, blind. Samsara kupe, into the well of material existence. Uru, great. Mrityubhaye, fear of death. Kshipanti, throw. Translation. Otherwise, if one does not take shelter of Achyuta and Baladev, then the senses acting as the horses and the intelligence acting as the driver, both being prone to material contamination, inattentively bring the body, which acts as the chariot, to the path of sense gratification. When one is thus attracted again by the rogues of Vishaya, eating, sleeping, and mating, the horses and chariot driver are thrown into the blinding, dark well of material existence. And one is again put into a dangerous and extremely fearful situation of repeated birth and death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Without the protection of Gaur Nitai, Krishna and Balaram, one cannot get out of the dark well of ignorance in material existence. This is indicated here by the word nochet, which means that one will always remain in the dark well of material existence. The living entity must get strength from Nitai Gaur or Krishna, Balaram. Without the mercy of Nitai Gaur, there is no way to come out of this dark well of ignorance. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita Lila, chapter 1, text 2, Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gaudodaya Pushpavanto Chitro Sando Tamonudo. Translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Unquote. This material world is a dark well of ignorance. The fallen soul in this dark well must take shelter of the lotus feet of Gaur Nitai, for thus he can easily emerge from material existence. Without their strength, simply attempting to get out of the clutches of matter by speculative knowledge would be insufficient. Namam Vishwabadaya Krishna Vistabhadare Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Pacharne Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadi Shatarine Vanchakalpadaru Vichakriva Sindhu Shabham Pyavishnabhyanamana. Translation again, if you like to repeat. Otherwise, if one does not take shelter of Achyuta and Baladev, then the senses, acting as the horses, and the intelligence, acting as the driver, both being prone to material contamination, inattentively bring the body, which acts as the chariot, to the path of sense gratification. When one is thus attracted again by the rogues of Vishaya, eating, sleeping, and mating, the horses and chariot driver are thrown into the blinding dark well of material existence. And one is again put into a dangerous and extremely fearful situation of repeated birth and death. So we all have a chariot to drive, and nobody is going to drive it for us. Which brings up the topic of this chariot. This chariot originally, at least is the most famous expression of this chariot analogy is from Katha Upanishad. It's in the dialogue between Nachiketa, the young student, and Yamaraj. And here is very similar. Is reported also in other scriptures. Other philosophers, like Greek philosophers, also use a similar analogy of the chariot. It's a very powerful analogy because it fits very, very closely with the reality. So the horses are the senses. And horses are a bit kind of a very vata type of animals. Vata in the sense very airy, no? Very restless type of animals. You see cows, they're really kind of peaceful. Horses, they agitate very easily. So the senses, and they're very, very powerful also. Horses are very powerful. They can carry, they can drive, they can carry this chariot hundreds of miles. And this country at one point was horses were the main means of transportation, right? And there were these coaches. What was the company? Anyway, these coaches and of course this horses going up and down. It's a big country. At one point, the horses would just go up and down, up and down, up and down. So they're very powerful. They're very restless. And the path is the objects of the senses. That's what the senses do. Just like the horses need a path, horses don't climb mountains. They're not like goats, but they need a path. So the path of the horses is the object of the senses, obviously. So for the touch, there is the, what do you call it? The touch. For the touch, there is a touch. That's what you say? More or less. You get the idea. There are shapes and textures. Like that, you touch what's soft, what's hard, like that. Then, of course, for the tongue, there is a taste. And then for these eyes, there is a sight, there is a form. These three forms. And then there is the ears, so there is sound. And then there is smell. And in different forms of life, some senses are stronger than others. Like in many animals, the smell is very much stronger than the humans. But anyway, that's a detail. So you got these horses, and then here it's not mentioned, but there is the mind. The mind is the reins, because kind of it connects the horses with the intelligence, the driver. So the driver should hold the reins. The intelligence, the driver is the intelligence. And the soul, the Atma, the self, is the passenger. So the soul, or us, let's say us, should use the intelligence, the power of discrimination, nourished by knowledge, to see, to hold the reins of the mind and see where you want these horses to go. Otherwise, here it says, if there's another added analogy here, there is the highway robbers, plunderers, the dasyus. So there are these plunderers. You can imagine some highway robber to do, they're there to capture this chariot. It's like an ambush. The chariot is going, the horses are going, and then there's an ambush, and these plunderers jump up and takes the rein and capture the horses. And then what happened? And what are these plunderers? Are they rogues? Srila Prabhupada translates rogues of Vishaya. Vishaya means sense objects. But here meaning sense object, because some sense objects are neutral or harmless or not so dangerous. But here say eating, sleeping, and mating. In other words, the eating wrong things at the wrong time and so on and so forth, sleeping too much, and mating, not in the proper parameters. Then the horses and chariot driver, they fall into a blind well. So we have a very composite analogy here. You got the horses, you got the plunderers, you got also dark well. And when they jump into this dark well, obviously it's a very, very difficult situation because it's dark and it's very hard to get out of there. Samsara Kupa, the well of material existence. Kupa is the well, and samsara is the cycle of birth and death. So they fall off into this big dark well, and then Uru Mrityu Bhaye, there is this big fear of death. Like that. So this is the picture. This is the picture that gives. Unless one takes shelter in Achyut and Baladev. In other words, this refers to the previous verse. That unless one does take shelter of Krishna and Balaram, Achyut and Baladev, then this will happen. And this is happening. And this is happening. I mean, we see that the Vishayas, they become more and more intense as the Kali Yuga progresses. Technology becomes ensnaring for the senses. Like we see. I mean, I was just in another city. I was staying with a family of devotees. And a small child, he would be 3, 4 years old. So all day he was with video games and videos and video games. I didn't check exactly. But he was, whatever happened, he was there with his own little screen. I don't know if it was a phone or something, or just a video game player. But he was just there, just absorbed in these things. I watched, there was a crocodile doing something. So then, and he constantly, I remember another city, We were with another couple of devotees, and the child was always constantly with these video games, constantly in the car, outside the car, during the program, going back home with the car. He was living in this world. So the Maya, the material illusion, the Prakriti, made that it's like increasingly absorbing for the senses. Increasingly absorbing for the senses. Like if you see, say, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, you want to hear some music, but you got to actually have people sitting there and play. Or either you play a piano or guitar 150 years ago, that's it. You can't just have music. Then there were these records, 78, what do you call? What do you call? Yeah, LP, but before there were the 78 very fast, then there was 33, like that. So, and then you had to have the whole apparatus, those big things. You had to have the big record and put it on, and then you put the pin, and then it. So it was not very portable. I mean, you can't go around listening to that. You got to have the house and this and that. So, but nowadays, obviously, you can have music 24 hours a day. You have a very small MP3 player or your phone. Now it's all, you have a phone, and then you can listen. You can have thousands of songs throughout the day. You can listen to the music. So that's like one of the senses that, and people feel they have to listen. They have to listen. Now, some people, not everybody, but some people, they have to listen. They always listen to some music. And so the senses, I mean, even 10 years ago, you go on the train, you go on the flight, people won't watch movie. Nowadays, as soon as the thing that you can use the electronic device, immediately people pull out these iPads and phones and they watch movies all the time. And everywhere in the world. I mean, last year I was in Beijing, and we had to go to the subway, like more than an hour of subway, because we had to go to the programs and so on, then back to the temple. And people just standing there in the subway of Beijing watching movies in their phones. So the senses, I suppose to speak of eating. Before, under 50 years ago, you only eat things from your own place, right? If it's otherwise, some delicacies once in a while comes from far away. But now you go to the supermarket, you get foods from all over the world. Thailand and China and in Africa, you got bananas. Bananas are not from Illinois. I don't know if you've noticed. They don't grow with this wind. But bananas is normal. And you want kiwis? You buy kiwis. And anything you can have. Anything you can have. So we can go on and on, but you get the idea that the amount of sense objects, sense experiences, and everything is amplified through the mics, and anyway, we can go on and on and on. But people still feel empty. The horses have so many paths to run through, but people feel empty. I was just reading 3 days ago, Time magazine. They made a research in the last 15 years in the United States of America. The rate of suicide has increased 24% in 15 years. If in 1999, 100 people will commit suicide, in 2016 will be 124 people. It's a huge increase statistically. I mean, 24%, a quarter. And why? One can wonder why. They have everything. They have all the music they want. They have all the movies they want. You may know, maybe you're sadhus, but you know that there are sites you can watch any movie for free. You can watch any movie you want. You can listen to any music. If you don't like movies, you want to see something else, no, YouTube has got a gazillion videos on anything you want. Anything. And what else? You can eat food from anywhere in the world. I mean, even a normal person can eat foods from anywhere in the world. But still people are not happy. That means that there is something fundamentally wrong with the attempt of becoming happy through the senses. But of course, if people don't know, they don't know. That's why the Bhagavatam starts with that prayer to Shukadeva Goswami that people don't know, and he gives the knowledge. And here Srila Prabhupada, like he did in the previous verse, he gives this very strong, drastic jump. He goes from Krishna Balaram to Gaur Nitai. In other words, he makes it very clear. Unless you take shelter of Nitai Gaur, there's no way out. There's no way out. You can't just speculate your way out of sense gratification. That is that the driver, the intelligent, doesn't have that strength. Especially if you remain in touch with the object of the senses. These plunderers are stronger than the intelligence. And so, Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse, that the second verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda are like the sun and the moon. And they have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda. Gauda is a way of saying Bengal. They came in Navadvip Mayapur to dissipate the darkness of ignorance. So they came as the sun and the moon. Now, you may say, well, actually, the Bhagavatam says that the Bhagavatam itself is the sun. No? Krishna svadamo pagate dharma jnana divisaha kalu nashta drishamesha puranarko dunodita. It's the Bhagavatam that is the sun. Yeah, but without Gaur Nitai, you'll never hear about the Bhagavatam. That's why Srila Prabhupada, when he started translating the Bhagavatam, he puts 50 pages of introduction talking about Lord Chaitanya. He is the one who gave us the Bhagavatam. Yes, the author is Vyasadeva. But it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who actually made the point that this is the scripture, this is the scripture, this is the Shastra. He made it many times. For instance, at the Mayavadi Sannyasi in Varanasi, they were asking, why don't you study Vedanta, this and that? And then he explains everything, not from Om, Gayatri, this and that. And then he comes to the Vedanta Sutra and says, look, Vedanta Sutra without Bhagavatam, you can't understand. The whole discussion then ends in Bhagavatam. He never quotes the Vedanta Sutra in that dialogue, at least as reported in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so he was, I think in the first canto, Srila Prabhupada says something like, a biography of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the perfect preacher of the Bhagavatam. So that's the title. He was preaching the Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya preached the Bhagavatam. So in other words, it's the sun that brings the sun. Well, I mean, don't take this analogy very seriously. No, because is the sun, and part of his light is giving the Bhagavatam. Otherwise, who is giving the Bhagavatam? Yeah, the sun. The Bhagavatam is the sun, but if the sun doesn't rise, like that. In fact, the Bhagavatam is quoted 230 times in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once said, because there was a little flood. He was near the Ganga. There was a little flood. So he said, look, if during the Mahapralaya, if during the universal inundation, you happen to be there, take hold and hold tight of the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, you're there in the waves. You hold Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you really have to let go of one book, let go of the Bhagavad Gita and keep the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if you cannot hold both, hold on to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's what Srila Bhakti says. Of course, it's a very, what do you call, unlikely occurrence, no? like the airplane announcement. In the unlikely event that you are in the Mahapralaya with these three books, you can't hold them. But to say that Chaitanya Charitamrita gives the essence of Bhagavad Gita, of Srimad Bhagavatam, and of course then reveals Lord Chaitanya. So you can do what Srila Prabhupada says, take shelter in Gaur Nitai. So that's end this beautiful lecture. Any question or comments?
Apparently, Japan, which is the most economically advanced nation in the world, has got the highest suicide rate. 30,000 suicides every year.
20,000.
30.
30,000.
And there are no beggars, there's no poverty in Japan. So economics is not equivalent to happiness.
So 30,000 means basically 100 a day, you know. I mean, if you consider that in the Afghanistan war, in the first 10 years of the Afghanistan war, about 8,000 servicemen, U.S. servicemen were killed. 8,000 in 10 years during a war. I mean, in Japan, there's no war. So it means that every year is like basically 4 times more than all the deaths of the U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan in 10 years, every year. So 10 years, 8,000, 10 years would be 300,000. Yeah, people can't live anymore, you know. And in Japan, again, they have everything. Yeah. Once I was in Denmark, and it was the summer, and it was a very rainy summer. And one devotee just told me, almost like offhandedly, like matter-of-factly, he said, yeah, this winter there will be many suicides. People didn't get enough sun, no? So their mind is depressed, more depressed than usual. So in the winter, more people kill themselves. And you see the poor countries, you know, in Africa, Ecuador, basically very few suicides. They got nothing, you know, they have nothing materially, but nobody basically kills themselves. India, there's a lot of suicide, but when they become dependent on technology, so many students kill themselves, right? So many students in India kill themselves. There's the pressure. And so many farmers kill themselves when they become dependent on this Monsanto and all this, hybrid seeds and all that, fertilizers. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. When you become connected with somehow technology and a technological way of doing things, the soul becomes really desperate. You want to say something?
In the last line of the verse, there is the phrase "mrityu bhaye kshipanti," the fear of death.
Mm-hmm.
if there was fear of death while the horses are running wild, one might say that it's better to just park the horse.
Park the horses.
Park the horses.
Uh-huh.
But we find people taking very, very extreme risks, either for pleasure or by force. So it is almost paradoxical that while there is fear of death just in the course of living, people will tend to some extreme ideas of pleasure. They'll jump from a plane or swing by a rope or walk on a tightrope or drive fast cars.
Like extreme sport.
Extreme sports, whatever. So would you like to comment a little on that?
Yeah, you see, we need some excitement, you know? We need some excitement. We need some adrenaline in some form. No, we need some adventure. No, there is an element. We need some adventure. So, first of all, some of these activities actually reflect a suicidal tendency. In other words, people may not be suicidal in the sense that they may not go around depressed, but they're actually courting death. They're flirting with death actively, actively. Hmm? I remember one devotee, one Srila Prabhupada disciple in Italy, he told me a story. There was a man, a professional man, I think was a lawyer or something, and he was full of life, full of activities, this, that. And once the Srila Prabhupada disciple was very expert at analyzing people, he said to his friends, he has suicidal tendencies. And his friends couldn't believe, no, he's full of life, he's always into this, into that, projects, vacation, this, that. I said, okay. Then this man died because he was in a bike and he was going something like, I don't know the miles, but like 120 kilometers per hour in a very narrow mountain path, like something basically impossible to do, no? And then he died like that. And then this Prabhupada said, you see, he was really looking for death. Otherwise, you don't do those things, you know. So it's another form of nihilism, you know. See, humanity goes through these phases. There was a phase in literature like romanticism, which has nothing to do with romance, or romanticism, in which there were this like Moby Dick, this type of thing, which really kind of it's a apology or it's a description of this suicidal tendency, not this Captain Ahab who all his life was looking for Moby Dick and finally dies. I mean, who asked him to go after Moby Dick? I mean, you lost a leg, okay, so relax. No, I got to go. See, this monstrous reality the people face, kind of almost like flies jumping into the fire, the spirit of self-annihilation was already strong, like in 18th century, 19th century. It's all like mood, all like a mood. This philosophy, Hegel, Hobbes, which is not the tiger of Calvin. I mean, it's Calvin and Hobbes. The very dark concept, Schopenhauer, no, these very dark conceptions of the universe, almost as a very, what you call, inimical force, insurmountable inimical force, like that. And then people facing their death, Nietzsche, all this, basically. Sartre, he said that the only real question in life, and he's a philosopher, okay, known as a philosopher, the only real question in life, if to kill oneself or not. That's the only real question, existential question. These people are desperate, deeply, deeply desperate. Oh, yeah. And just to finish the analogy, sorry, it's like sometimes people get into drugs and they have to have higher and higher drugs because the stimulus is not anymore not enough. I mean, not everybody, never like that, but often you become very addicted to something, you need to increase the dose, you need to go to heavier and heavier. So these people have experience. I mean, you can watch football and you can watch baseball and you can watch basketball and things, or you can play, but it's not enough. So you have to go bungee jumping, you got to go parachuting, you got to go this thing with the suit, they fly, what do you call it? Huh? Paragliding, which is extremely dangerous. People die all the time, you know? They try to go in between the mountains and they crash into mountains. It happens all the time. They had to have more adrenaline. It's a drug, it's a hormone. They have to have more and more and more and more. So, yes.
I was just thinking in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, for one who has been famed, infamy is worse than death. And there are other things also that are worse than death. You see it in Mahabharata repeatedly, that people get again insulted and they can't live with that. And sometimes when someone's supposed to get killed, and they're at the same time not supposed to get killed, like Ashwatthama or Jayadratha, then they are either humiliated or some sort of primary sense gratification is removed from their life, and it's said, oh, that's just as bad as killing him. You know, he can't have any association, no internet. It's just as bad as death. So in the material world, the Prabhupada said that the purpose of life, ultimately, I mean, we know it's to have a relationship with Krishna, but the reason for that is because ultimately the purpose of our life is to become happy. And we get our happiness from our relationship with Krishna. But people who don't know that, they're on this endless quest for happiness. And when they can't find happiness, then there's no purpose to life anymore. So, you know, in one sense, the fear of unhappiness outweighs the fear of death. Because living without happiness, living in a humiliated state, for instance, becomes so obstructive to finding that happiness that I'd rather be dead.
Good point, thank you. Anything else from anyone? Okay, so thank you very much. We can close here. Grantara, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai.